it was an MMA / kickboxing show. The guy's like, all right, so what's the rule?
I am excited to have a real legend here with us today, Chris Clodfelter out of 8 Points Muay Thai. Man, like, you got to start off with legend because 40 pro fights, 40 pro Muay Thai / MMA fights, like, that's a lot of fight time on a canvas.
The fun thing was it was at a very fun early time in, especially on the East Coast. You didn't have a lot of guys fighting both Muay Thai and MMA. So I really got to kind of see the birth of the sport here in the Southeast, especially. I mean, I remember being on like the undercard when Stephen Thompson was the pro main event for the IKF stand-up titles and stuff. I remember Forrest Griffin fighting on local cards back in the late 90s. So it was definitely a fun time to grow up in the sport. There wasn't a lot of Muay Thai guys on the East Coast then, so you kind of knew everybody in kind of the circuit. I remember one show especially where it was an MMA / kickboxing show. So we were fighting Muay Thai on that, and the guy's like, all right, so what's the rules? He asked me and my opponent before the fight, and we look at each other like, is this guy for real? So I mean, it was definitely a fun time to be involved in the sport.
You know what's crazy is I've been in a few shows where it's like that, like you're going over the rules meeting in the back, and then the ref's like, okay, so what rules are we fighting under? I'm like, wait a second. You're
like, hold on. So I got a chance to fight at a very early time. I had, over 40 fights. I got to, at a very early career, I started off in Muay Thai. Actually, funny thing, I started off in karate, which a lot of people might not know. I actually have a black belt in American freestyle karate. It was a really, really fun thing. I grew up in 9, 10, 11 as a junior fighting in that. And then when I got 14, I was like, a buddy of mine was doing Muay Thai, or they called it kickboxing at the time. But a buddy of mine was doing Muay Thai, and he's like, hey, man, you got to check out this Muay Thai gym. They're the real deal. And I was like, I'm a black belt, so I just want to let you guys know. And, man, I went there, and to be honest with you, I got my butt handed to me. I mean, these guys have been training like a year, were just wiping the floor with me. So that kind of gave me a passion for Muay Thai, especially the clinching and the leg kick portion. I mean, I just was like, the way they were doing was just, opened my eyes. And I was hooked, man. And I started fighting amateur and turned pro when I was 20. But there wasn't, like I said, there wasn't a lot of fights on the East Coast at the time. So I started doing MMA as well. It was NHB back then, no holds barred. But a buddy of mine actually taught me into it. And he's like, hey, man, you gotta do some of this NHB stuff. He was traveling, fighting for Jamie Levine. On the New Orleans shows. He's like, man, you got to start doing these no hold bars. I mean, these guys, man, this is the ticket, yada yada. And so he kind of got me hooked in there and kind of went down that path as well, and became a dual athlete and stayed fighting both arts pretty much my whole career.
And now you're coaching and not fighting, which there was a transition there, I'm sure. And tell me a little bit about what it was like to be going from that I'm a fighter to now I'm coaching people to now I'm not fighting and coaching, I'm just coaching. What was that like?
When I first started, I viewed coaching as, okay, hey, I'm going to look like Mr. Miyagi when I'm coaching. I'm going to be old. My body's going to beat. I'm ready to go. So I viewed coaching as like, hey, that's what I didn't really think too much about it, because as a fighter, no matter what people say, as a fighter, you have to be selfish. You're worried about your pad work, your sparring. Like if you come in and you don't have your favorite sparring partners at the gym, you're like, oh man, well, I don't want to go with this guy. And so, I never wanted to be a fighter who was like trying to be a fighter and also trying to be a coach. So I knew all I wanted to do was fight. When I was towards the end of my career, I knew I only had a couple of fights left. I was getting older, and man, these guys were just getting hungrier and hungrier. And I knew I was kind of like on my way out. I was like, I know I want to open a gym. So that's what led me to open 8 Points. And so I basically lost my job right before Christmas. So I was like, all right, this is God pushing me. This is God kind of pushing me out the window. I had 2 more fights after I opened 8 Points, and the final fight was in Madison Square Garden. It was just an amazing, it was sold out, man. It was the first time Muay Thai was in the Garden. And I just remember being on stage, and I'm out there and I'm fighting And I just didn't have that fire. I went out there, fought, man. I was doing good in the first round, felt great, but I ended up getting caught with a head kick, and I'd never got caught with that in my career. And I was like, man, I didn't even see it coming. And I just didn't feel that fire, you know what I mean? So I was very adamant about not being like, for instance, a Ken Shamrock. So when Ken Shamrock was fighting, he was a god. He was a god in the 90s and 2000, fought, and he kept chasing that dragon, chasing that feeling. Because what a lot of people don't understand is when you're fighting, there is no feeling in the world like winning. Like being on top of the mountain, being in front of thousands of people, having your hand raised. But there's also no lower low than feeling that loss. I didn't want to go out on a loss in my final fight. Unfortunately, I didn't want to go out on a loss. But I also didn't want to, look back at my legacy and throw everything I've done for the last 20 years away, 18, 20 years away, flush that down the drain because I was chasing that high. Fiance at the time, she was like, hey, listen, you have a lot to give to the sport. You should focus on coaching. You should transition and really focus on 8 Points, because at that time I hadn't really been building the gym. We'd been open about a year and a half, and I hadn't focused on the gym. I focused on myself. And so she said, you need to go home. You need to reassess life and really focus on coaching. And now I look back, and this is why God put me on the earth. Like, being a coach and building these champions and building these people and investing in their life means more to me than any title I've ever won. I used to think the United States Muay Thai Association lightweight title I won, I was like, man, that's it. Feels so good. That is nothing compared to watching my guys win a title in the IKF or WKA, or watching, Caleb in lion fight, or taking some guy, John Siegel over the lion fight, or, watching these guys and building these guys mean more to me than anything I've ever done, and being able to invest in them. So, now I get what she was telling me 11 years ago. A lot of fighters talk about their golden years, and they're like, yeah, when I was fighting, and man, those were the days. This is the days for me. Being a coach is exactly why God put me on earth, and I just couldn't be happier, man.
It is very similar but different. It is a different moment when it's just you in the limelight collecting all of that attention, or when it's your student, your competitor that's out there, and that maybe it's not even a big thing, but they've accomplished a win of which you've trained them for. And I think that dynamic of coach to student, or coach to fighter, is a very unique one, which brings me to something that's been in the news lately. Vivian Pereira, UFC fighter, Invicta fighter, apparently after 12 years of being coached, was kicked out of her gym for getting pregnant with a guy that she'd been dating since she was 15, and she's in her mid-20s. So for you, you're coaching a lot of people, and you're in charge of a gym, and myself as well with my father, we've had situations where we have had to kick people out. What are some qualifications that you believe that coaches should kick people out? Like, what is it for you that is a no-go situation, or do you feel like that was pretty fair, considering she can't fight anymore because she's gonna have a baby?
Well, number one, I can't believe that happened in this day and age. I'm number one, a family guy. I would be ecstatic as one of my fighters are like, hey, I gotta take a little time off because I'm having a kid, or we're gonna have a family. We're gonna start a family. To me, it has nothing to do with those kind of decisions. I can't even imagine that is even a thing we're talking about. It's more along the lines of respect. So in whatever gym you choose to be part of that gym's system. Every gym does something different. I'm not saying what we do works for us. Okay, we have a very high winning percentage. We have over 85% winning percentage in our fights, man. I'm very proud of the accomplishments we've got and the accomplishments we've done. But at the end of the day, it's about our system. So I'm not saying my way is the only way by any means. There's so many great gyms out there. Everybody has a system. But if you're not going to go along with that system, and you want to complain about it, and you're going to be disrespectful. There can't be two Indian chiefs in the tribe. Does that make sense? It's got to be one guy in charge. I've seen this happens a lot in MMA, not so much in Muay Thai or traditional martial arts like karate. It happens more in MMA because you have these MMA guys. They got a boxing coach, they got a wrestling coach, they got karate's winning fights. Let's do a karate coach. Let's do an animal coach. Make me walk like a bear when Conor McGregor's going. I mean, they got all these ridiculous coaches because MMA, in some guys, it's a sport, not necessarily a martial art. MMA is a mixture of different martial arts, but if I look at more of it as a sport, and you have a lot of athletes in that sport and maybe not martial artists that aren't necessarily understand the way to go. And that might work for some people, but with our gym, we don't do that. I don't let my fighters spar at 5 different gyms because they get 5 different opinions on what they should do. If somebody wants a different look, maybe that our guys can't give, I'll get somebody from a gym I trust who has that style to come in and spar with our guys or something like that. But I believe that we have a very team and a very pack mentality, almost like a wolf pack mentality, where we are doing everything from the inside and we're raising the ship together. That might not work for everybody, but that's our system. So for me, I think it's more along the lines of a disrespect. Like if this person is going to be continually disrespectful, or if I've asked them 3 or 4 times, hey, I need you to calm down. That's probably another issue. I would say, hey man, we got to part ways. I believe that, somebody can have 5, 6, 7, 8 chances maybe, but it's those things are my red flags, the respect. And, you don't get too many chances on the respect. It's my way, or, you can go out the door. Or hurting people in sparring. That's a big thing. We've been in business 11 years. Nobody's got seriously injured. And man, we produced about 80 national and world champions from scratch. And nobody's got hurt. And so we really want to keep that record going,
And I think you're right. A lot of people, especially the MMA gems, let's say if they start, and not all of them, but I've found that the more successful, cultured environments that include MMA aren't necessarily just an MMA gym. They've got some kind of base, whether it's Muay Thai or karate or jiu-jitsu, and then they're doing MMA. They've created a culture. And I believe that that's one of the reasons why, we met at IKF East Coast Classic. Our kids were fighting each other, and then eventually I ended up fighting one of your girls as well, and just a tremendous amount of respect for you as a coach, tremendous amount of respect for you and how you interacted. And I think that that's a really cool thing when you get to some of these tournaments. You get to see the true character of the gyms that you come up against by how they treat their fighters in the corner. What's your philosophy on how to treat fighters when they're under the most amount of pressure, which is in the fight? What are you trying to do and accomplish in the corner with your fighters?
Well, that is a great question, and it is extremely complex because every fighter needs something different. So what I like to do as a coach is I want to know my fighter, number one, because somebody like an Araceli, who you had a chance to compete against, and somebody like a John Siegel, he fought on Lion Fight, somebody like a Caleb, they react different than maybe another one of my guys. So there's different mentalities. So you want to find that mentality. If I have a fighter who is just like, I'm going to rip your head off, they're just ready to go. Sometimes I have to pull that fighter back, and I have to say, hey, this round I need a lot of movement. This first round I want a lot of movement. Don't take too many shots. I want you really kind of looking to see what's going down, and then return fire the first couple of minutes just until you kind of get comfortable in there. Because if they go gung-ho, they could wear themselves out in the first round. If I have a fighter who is nervous, they're a newer fighter, they're nervous. One thing we really do is I give them 3 techniques to focus on that first round. We're the long haul fighters. The first round is just most of the time our toughest round. Like we have a very blitz kind of fighter, and I know that. I'm like, listen, circle, let's get to business, because I want my fighters to grow over each round, And our style, being a very heavy clinch style, I don't want them just looking for that in the first round. I want them to kind of set that up. But if I have somebody who's a little more nervous, I give them an actual 1 or 2 directions and say, listen, this is all you're allowed to do. So some newer fighters, I have to direct exactly what they need to do each round. And as that fighter grows over the years and we have a better relationship and we learn each other, it becomes more of more of a relationship in the actual fight where we're like, hey, yeah, let me see that leg kick some more this round. All right, let me see this, or hey, work the body. And it just becomes more of a relationship where we can grow in the fight together.
Wish more coaches were thinking that, as opposed to yelling or getting in the fighter's face, really just understanding the mentality of that fighter and working with them. And do you believe that has anything to do with the percentage of wins that come out of your gym?
So number one, we make our fighters wait a very long time. And number two, I do believe it has to do with me knowing my fighter, and also us sticking to what we do. So we've stuck to our guns even over the years when things have come in and out of fashion. We've stayed to what we do. Okay, so we were talking a lot about, training and the fundamentals and things like that. And we were talking about, what's in fashion at the moment. And the buzzword I keep getting over and over again is calf kicks, drop foot. We want to take out the lower leg. And then you've got situations where, again, just like you were saying, some of these coaches are like, yeah, calf kicks. And then you see fighters like Chris Weidman or Anderson Silva and stepping back, and it's totally destroyed their leg. So what's your take on the mysterious calf kick, since that's the hot topic right now? So I have very few fighters. So Logan, if you're listening, if you're watching, I'm talking about you, but so Logan I allow him to do calf kicks because he does it correct. We work on those. Caleb, and I let him do some stuff. And I have two or three other guys, Seth and John and Noah, Noah Siegel. I'll let them use the calf kick, but they use it more Thai style, where it's not a hard kick. It's almost like to catch that leg, to scoop it up, and then set something else up. In MMA, you have guys that are kicking the calf like you would kick the leg. And of course you're going to break your leg. In Thailand, these Muay Thai fighters have hundreds of fights, bare shin. They fight bare shin from the time they're kids. Breaking your shin is very rare in Thailand. Very rare. If you break your shin, I'm not saying it doesn't happen. It does happen, but it's very rare. Whereas in the United States, it's the new thing. And I think it comes from these guys trying the wrong kick or the right kick in the wrong place. He did a perfect leg kick. He only did it to the calf. So if that person's throwing all that power, all I got to do is just turn, and I got gravity on my side. Yeah, definitely. Well, Chris, where can people find you? Let's say they're in your area. Tell them where to find you, all that good information. So if they're interested in Muay Thai, they want to come train with you, how do they do it? So we're in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, 8 Points Muay Thai. You can check us out online, 8pointsmuaythai.com, or you can check us out on Instagram, 8 Points Muay Thai and Symbol Fitness. We post there regularly, and so you can check us out on there and kind of see what we're all about. And so our passion truly is teaching Muay Thai and sharing. Our big shtick at the gym is we train everybody like a fighter. Now we're going to punch everybody in the face, but our goal is to treat the person who walks in off the street just like one of my world champion fighters. We want you to feel a part of the team. So we'd love to have anybody that watches your show swing by for a free class. Sweet. Well, Chris, thanks so much for being on Fight Time. Appreciate it very much. Thank you. If you enjoyed this video today, I need you to do me a favor. Make sure you hit the like button. Don't forget to smash that subscribe button. And ding, turn on your notifications. This is going to help us make sure we get more videos like this out to you in a timely manner and help you on your martial arts journey in the quest to be your best.